Hello, welcome to another episode of the Live Cost Construction Experience. Delighted this week to be joined by Richard Fitzmaurice, the Managing Director of B&G Construction. Richard, you're very welcome.
Yes, Ciaran. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. I've been trying and thinking about ways to get you on, and probably the best thing that could have happened for me to get this done was a lockdown. So
Lockdown.
it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
We'll get into the B&G stuff, but what I always like to do is sort of get an idea of the individual behind the business, and like where did your construction career begin? And I suppose what did you have a background in the trades?
Yeah, I suppose I personally set out probably 1999. I took up a carpentry apprenticeship. When I done my leaving cert, I'd done an IT and business course there for a year. Probably wasn't my thing looking back on it. I don't think I was ready for college at the time. And then I just had that sort of mindset. I wanted to get out and earn money and have my own sort of money, so to speak. My father would have been a building contractor, a sort of plasterer by trade. So same as I suppose most young guys whose fathers were involved in the building trades, I spent my summers working with him. In that, it's when you look back on it, it sort of it gave me a great work ethic for life, like, and that you want to do it, like, just get out there. So I suppose that was my next thing. So I think when I was 19 or so, my dad had passed away. So I sort of, it's sort of thought, well, this is the road I'll probably go down and sort of work wise and that. So I was thinking things through. That's what I sort of decided. So it was good. And that's how I sort of started out there and served my friendship.
You were fairly quick then, were you, from going from apprenticeship to opening up B&G?
Probably, yeah. So I would have worked as a subcontractor from probably 2004 to 2007. So I suppose the boom was sort of kicking in at those sort of times. So money was good. You're working your price work and that sort of thing. I would have worked with a friend of mine there. We sort of partnered up. I initially started out my apprenticeship. Two guys, one guy from Monaghan, Ken Boylan was his name. So really good guy, really nice guy, good crack on site and that sort of thing. So he probably would have had the crew of lads that came down from Carrick Cross to that every day. Probably van loads and like still sort of happening there. So I'd sort of served my first 3 years with him, just as a subcontractor with him. And then my final year, and then the years following that, I was with a guy called Tommy Scott. He was actually a friend of my dad's, and he really took me under his wing, like, and sort of taught me a lot of things, like, sort of about business, and just looked after me in that sort of way, the early years of business and that as well. So it was good step up and good sort of learning curve,
It's an eye opener. I went from I suppose a similar-ish, I suppose. I came through the carpentry trades, and then when the time came to opening up my own show, I was actually running a job out in Perth, actually, and I got the responsibility finally to look after a job. And then I said to myself, this is handy. Like, I'm doing everything here. I'm organising the lads. I'm getting the gear on the site. So I'll just go and do this myself. Eye opener then when you do decide to actually step into the fire, that running a job and running a business are quite different things. I mean, what was the biggest challenge for you, do you think, and sort of when you set out and start growing B&G?
That's it. Eye opening. I think, like, so I think first initially when we set up B&G, it's myself and my brother Bernard and Gary, hence where the name B&G. They'd been working together probably 3 or 4 years previous to that for Tommy Scott. When things sort of towards 2006, when things started sort of tightening up, like with the sort of boom was calmed down, our Celtic Tiger, that sort of thing, we decided to go in. We've got a couple of contracts ourselves. We decided to go in and that. So the learning curve, I think, it's different. Yourself and being hands-on all day, that's great. We can get this work done. This is where tradesmen get through it, but the business end of it is a completely different kettle of fish. So as we sort of diversified and moved on, I sort of more moved into an office role, and the lads out on site and that sort of thing. So it evolved from that, but it's still a learning curve. Probably 10 years now, sort of sitting in front of a computer instead of a hammer in that my hand. It's different thing altogether. Not where it's probably seeing myself, but
do you think that's do you think that's important? Because I mean, one of the lessons that we learned early, myself and Niall, was that we're probably very similar in when we started. When we tried to be, I mean, he's definitely, there's no question. Niall had years of experience on me in the trade, so he's far better there. But when we went into the business together, we're actually similar enough, where we never separated into say, this is my role. I think what I'm hearing here is you've said, someone needs to take control of this business space. How did that go? Like, I mean, did it take you a while to adjust to that? Or?
Yeah, well, I won't lie. Like, the two lads are probably much better sort of tradesmen than I am myself. Like, so I think so. I was nearly happier to go into that role, so it suited me better. So, and as you sort of, because we were sort of taking guys on and that sort of thing, you realise there's more involved in the sort of management end of it, and you're sort of more taken away from the hands-on, and you're more managing things and making sure things are getting done on time, and like for what sort of prices you're putting in on them and all that sort of end of it. So like that's what we sort of, our roles started getting defined through the years, like on that end. So as we evolved a bit more, then I'm just sitting from your sort of 7:30 till 5:30 in front of a computer, just going through everything that's sort of involved in the business end of it day to day.
Yeah, and you obviously got a decent grasp on the business end of it, because you've obviously started transitioning into different areas. You've opened up View office space, which is a little bit different than B&G, different business model. Like, where did the idea come? I suppose a little bit for people who are listening, I suppose, what is View office space and where did the idea come from?
Well, View office space is serviced office building. We've built 9,000 square foot here, so it's serviced office and gives you a few different options, like your own private office, dedicated desks, hot desks. There's a little sort of cafe and that, meeting rooms. That's so where it evolved from. We were doing a lot of office fit outs in around town and seeing these sort of models and how they were working, and that our original offices are down in Malahide Marine as well. So we were looking at this building across the car park there for probably 2 years, an empty building, and it was originally a restaurant, a couple of restaurants, but the size of it, I think it seated like 400 people or something like that. It worked. It didn't work out, so to speak. It was too big for a restaurant and sitting empty. So I had basically just put a proposal from working, fitting out these other ones, seeing where they were going. My mind started sort of thinking how this is sort of working. I'd known the owner and sort of talked to him, and he was asking me about converting into apartments, or would he rent it back out as a restaurant to that again. So I put a proposal, done a business plan that on this as a sort of change into a service office space, and we put a good bit of time and effort into it now, and done our research and everything, and anything from like many home offices are registered in Malahide and Fingal area, many self-employed people live within a 5k radius, and then putting together a whole sort of business model and how you sort of appeal to people about the bonus of working in a building that's close to cafes and coffee shops and in a suburban area, plus close to schools and creches, and where people can drop off their kids and be in their office within sort of 5 minutes, instead of taking that hour's commute into town, and still be working in that sort of working environment. And then as well as being in close proximity to the airport and buses and darts access for people that might be coming from outside the area that have teams to work on. So we sort of put this all together. It probably took us 2 or 3 months to get it all together in a proper proposal and put it to the owner of the building, a guy called Artem Malloy. He'd have a lot of property probably around Dublin City and that. So we put it to him, and he loved the idea and fully backed it. And it wasn't too far from there. We sort of started kicking off.
In that plan, was there a line in there for what happens when we should reach a global pandemic?
Jesus, no, nothing like that, and I don't think anyone ever foreseen that.
I mean, how has that affected that plan? I mean, for me, I've actually said this a couple of times on record. I actually think that the model, the way we worked, I think, was just something that we inherited from previous generations, or something that we worked, and I think it's just been completely disrupted now. I mean, how has COVID affected your plans with View office space?
Office space, we are 12 months behind. We initially opened the week before the second lockdown. I forget the dates now. It just always sticks me ahead. So it's not a grand open. We had a soft open. Out of, I think, 15 offices, we had like 7 or 8 let, and then out of 48 desks, I think there was 5 or 6 people taking desks. So we were going, this is a good start. We obviously know it'll take time to build up the business, and our projections were based on a 5-year period and that sort of thing. So this is a good start. So we opened the first week, and then that was a Monday, and the Friday they announced the second lockdown. So basically we just shut our doors. I think we were blessed in the guys that we had investors with us, and the landlord Arthur as well, that gave us a break, and that sort of thing, just worked along with us and knew that this is going to work or will work. It just had to give us sort of time, like, so we weren't restricted to like pay your rent now, or if you don't pay it, you're out, and that sort of thing. So we were lucky and blessed, and like it's sort of just worked on from there.
I've been out there, I've seen it. It's a serious space to work in. I mean, there's no question the big office space that we need to have all our staff in one place at one time. In my opinion, dead days are gone. It's been taken away from us. It just doesn't need that. So your business model, although slow, you can only see that playing out one way, where companies are going to want flexibility. They're going to want to be able to come, go, and they don't want to be tied to these big long leases. So I think that one will be okay for you, to be honest.
I mean, and we're as you sort of say, leases, like we don't go any longer than sort of years lease with anyone in office, and that's why we're not tying anyone in. The desks, you can sort of take them on a 3-month basis. You're basically sitting. I don't know, most people won't know, the building sits on stilts on the water. It's all panoramic views out onto the sort of boats and that sort of thing. So it's a great place to work from. It's all natural light, and it's a good working environment now. What's sort of being put in place now with the ladies we have in that are run it. So
nice, once the pubs open back up there, you've got nice options there as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. If you're local, you're 5 minutes away from Monaghan sort of village. Like you're walking along the marina there to get to it. Like, so there's plenty of sort of amenities there between pubs and restaurants and cafes and all that. And that's so it's sort of anyone that's come in viewing, basically, I think 99% of people have taken a sort of desk or office of that, so they're blown away by the building itself. So it's it's a good thing.
My mind has gone drifting there into Malahide on a summer's day, lunchtime points, and there. Let's get back to reality here. You mentioned a lockdown there for a couple of times, and I suppose the January lockdown is one that seemed the companies really seemed to catch by surprise. I mean, what was your reaction when you heard we were facing construction? I suppose was facing further restrictions.
Well, I think in December I was probably of the same view that a lot of people were. I think you could see there was something else coming. People had sort of taken a chain off, so to speak, and let loose over Christmas, and we were going to feel the repercussions of it in January. Now, I don't think anyone could have foreseen that we'd be into probably a 4 or 5 month sort of lockdown the way things are going, and I think we all would have taken a different view on things if we had seen that. But I sort of have the opinion of myself that we are where we are. We just have to deal with it now and take the positives out and push forward and get these sort of end dates in line and just start moving forward on it.
Yeah, I mean, what is the biggest challenge with that? I mean, there's a few things there that we're touching on, like, the unknown is something that people are really starting to struggle with. Like, if I just had a date, I mean, this whole concept of we just reopen within a week or 2 weeks notice. I mean, supply chain, organising subcontractors. I mean, it's just not going to happen like that. I mean, what is the biggest challenge, do you think? I
think, well, for me personally, for us, I think like employee retention was our biggest challenge. Like guys are getting frustrated now. There is contractors that are working away there. They can offer them jobs. We don't have enough guys out there to fill those positions. It's not that it's a rat race, but there's always offers on board there. So and it all comes, in my opinion, like 99% it comes down to like salary and what guys are on. I know I've been hearing of like companies in the UK that are offering guys twice the wages what they're on here, plus supplying them with accommodation and that sort of thing. So that's going to start to appeal to fellas if they're on €350 a week and they're paying rent and they've no sort of life and that sort of thing. So I think we need to get back on track to get our workforce back in play.
Yeah, it's. I mean, having spent a fair bit of time in Australia, I'm still pretty close to what's going on down there, and like their approach was like their government incentivized home renovation grants, stuff like that. They poured money on construction. They seen construction as a real vehicle for. To keep economy going, to keep growth going, like, and okay, fair enough, there are cases and they had a fair control over COVID, but when construction, certainly in Australia, certainly in the UK, certainly in mainland Europe, I mean, we just haven't seen this lockdown, which I mean, it's crazy. I mean, do you feel that there's enough supports then in place for the business?
No, I just find this very frustrating. Like, I don't think at all there's enough sort of support for us. We've basically been told to shut up shop, close our sites. so to speak, and we've no income and revenue. We've no choice, but we have to keep paying our insurances. Like most guys will have finance on machinery, finance on vehicles, the rent in offices, rent in storage facilities. We've basically been given no support on that. And like, I suppose we're in a position now where we've sort of cash reserves and we can sort of bridge payments and that. But there's a lot of guys out there who aren't, who are Joe Blogs, who might have one or two guys on the books, they're doing small sort of extensions and that, and they've basically been told, no, that's it, you're cut off. And I don't see how it's fair to them. And like, even now we're starting to feel the pressure of us ourselves in B&G. You can't get on site, so you're not creating revenue, so you're not bringing money into the business. There's only so long you can sustain it. But if we were a business basically where we had a premises and we were selling something out of it, we'll get a support payment. But because we don't, we're not entitled. Now, I know there's a couple of schemes coming in there over the last week or two, but it's very difficult, I think, for people to do that. Like, it's not straightforward. You're comparing like revenue turnovers from 2019 and that, and week on week, unless you're sort of managing everything perfectly, and if someone's offering to pay you for a job, you're not going to turn it down. And that's how I think it's very difficult. It's going to be detrimental to some companies and some smaller guys that just can't do it, and we'll just have to wrap up. There's
no question, absolutely no question. Are you confident that we might see a reopening? I think we're down for April.
Yeah, I think I have to be positive towards a full reopening now. I think we need to get back up and running again. And like, you see the reports at CIF who've used the construction sites were the only country like in Europe or that the construction sites are closed down. Like, so everywhere else is back up and running, so they have their guys back on site. And you have to give guys a bit of credit as well, that there's no fellas there that are looking to sort of thing. I think anyone that I know of, like, they're trying to work at the best they can to make it a safe place to work and put all the things in place that's needed. Like, at the end of the day, it's I know for ourselves, it costs a lot of money, like for your PPE wear, for like sanitizing, for everything, just putting everything in place, like brought in a lot of sort of plans in place yourself, and it's time consuming, and it's more sort of it doesn't come for free, so to speak. So it's as it is, it costs a lot of money to do that, and then you do that all and you put it all in place, and then you're basically shut down again. So it's a very frustrating thing for myself, and I'm sure for a lot of guys in the industry.
There's got to be I think that when we look back on this, there'll be something that we look back fondly. I mean, there's challenges. Even when we look back the last bad recession we had, you'll always look back and look at something fondly about it, that, geez, if it wasn't for that, maybe I wouldn't have done this, or whatever it might be. If I was to ask you, and fast forward you 2025, let's call it, and I was to say, looking back on COVID, do you think you would be able to highlight any positive from this whole experience?
I think on a personal level, from the whole experience, I think it's sort of made me more efficient, my use of time, management of time, making best use of it. It also gave me time to, me personally, I always like to keep that sort of structure down, because I was into work every morning, 6:30. Between myself and my wife, we were sort of managing kids. I was working probably till 2 or 3 some days, and then coming home, and she was working her job probably till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And we just sort of managed. We were lucky, like, with grandparents and that sort of thing, helping us out. We had 2 young kids, one's 4.5 and the other one's 1.5 years. So like, they were out of school, out of creche, they're not able to manage themselves. That's how we had to sort of get that work-life balance and work that in. It's like, and looking back, if I was looking back from 2025, I think it gave me a chance as well when I was at home, sort of minding kids and that sort of thing, that it took a step back and took a whole look at everything. And I thought, like, where we sort of come from and how far we've come over the last few years, and we've built a company that Bernard and Gary can be very proud of, like, and what we've achieved and built. We've basically built a company from nothing, and we're taking up to like a very serious turnover. And that's from building from nothing to something, I think, is what I'd sort of been. I'd always be a glass half full sort of guy, that's the way, and I'd always think positively on that, and that's my mindset, and that's what I'd sort of think of. So I'd always think about how we'd evolved a bit and do certain things, and took time as like we'd come in and we'd have sort of team meetings between the sort of management team and how we can do something better and make something more efficient. Efficiency is a big thing in myself, how can sort of, as I said, better manage my time and make, instead of spending 10 hours doing something, how can I sort of like use live costs, I would say, and that's give me back a lot of time and that sort of thing. So I'm always open to sort of evolving in that way. So it gave time there to how to get better systems in place, put better people in better positions and that sort of thing. So that's the positive I take back from it.
The reason I ask you that is because when I was doing a little bit of research, I found an article back in April of 2010. The Irish Times ran a feature. And they called the feature "How to Survive, Adjust, and Stay Positive," which was a tough time when we think back to 2010. So this isn't your first sort of challenge with going through tough times, and the piece was very interesting around your advice at that time of how to survive, adjust, and stay positive. It does sound like you're taking, I suppose, the same sort of approach this time. What advice would you have for others to survive, I suppose, adjust and stay positive through this current set of circumstances?
I suppose I'd have a same thing in mindset. I'd always like to say to adjust. I'd always surround myself with people who are good at what they do. I've no time for time wasters. People who talk the talk but don't walk the walk. If you're going to do something, do it. I like an attitude. My wife she works for a tech company called HubSpot, and they've a real American sort of outlook and thing. And they've got they call it the GSD. It's very sort of, but it's get shit done. And I like that. It sounds a bit sort of how you'd put it, but I like that sort of statement. It's basic. Get it out there. It's a get shit done attitude. They don't look for excuses. They just look for solutions. And that's my motto. There, I don't like sort of pussyfooting around things. If we're going to do something, let's do it. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We get going. And that's my motto. It's like for anyone I'm involved in business. So I've a close network who I'm involved with in business, and it would generally be, and if I'm honest, it's generally like sort of family members. So I trust people, but if they're in sort of an inner circle, so to speak, and if I'm sort of trusting someone there, expecting to sort of do what they're going to say, if someone lets me down, it annoys me. So we'd always have a close inner circle. Example like Marcus, our other brother, he's recently, probably in the last 6 or 8 months, has come back working for us in B&G. So he's come in as our sort of commercial director. He's a qualified QS. He's sort of playing his part and like taking us to the next level with his experience he's gained like in his previous sort of professional career to date. We brought him, he's come in, he's sort of taken a director's role in the company and sort of taken us onto another level. Basically adds another dynamic to what myself or Bernard or Gary didn't have. He's a different approach and different view and that sort of thing. So it's good in that way. And that's what that's how I'd adjust and stay positive and sort of the sort of circumstances, how to make things better for ourselves. You've
obviously brought in Mark. You're starting to think. Obviously commercially focused. Then you've got plans. Then I mean, what is the plan for B&G and View? I suppose bring the two of them into the equation. What's the plan? I suppose over the next sort of 5 years.
I suppose B&G, like we're sort of. I'm sure all of us were really happy with the direction we've sort of taken over the last couple of years and the projects we've got involved in. We're always moving up the scale, so to speak. It's an onwards and upwards approach, and this we've built in my eyes, and we've never fallen out with clients or anything like that, and like you've come across tricky clients, and everyone can sort of tell you that, but we'll learn to appease the situations. Not everything runs to plan or that sort of thing. So we move through it and keep on. Like reputation is big for us. Like if someone rings us that's rang us and we've done a job from 10 years ago and there's a sort of a leak or something like that, we're going to go out and make sure that if there's an issue there and it was our issue, we'll deal with it. Like our reputation is big for us, and that's the main thing. And we want to, we've built up a great sort of working team with different design teams like architects and QSs, and never had an issue with anyone. So that's reputation is big on that end of it, for B&G. So it's an approach of onwards and upwards and building up to bigger and better sort of projects. We've probably moved ourselves up the scale over the last probably 10 years. So we're up at a level now we're very happy with. We've a team we're very happy with. and that, and the structure we're very happy with, and that's so it's good on that end. I don't know, it's just keep moving forward.
Keep going, and there's absolutely no question you will. Where can people, anyone wants to reach out and have a chat around B&G or even view Richard? Where can people find out more about yourself?
Well, on our two websites there, so we've www.bgconstruction.ie. So we've same as I suppose most of the guys, like what our previous records are, a bit of background on ourselves. On that, on the construction end of it, View is the view.ie. I suppose just getting back on that one as well. The View, where we've done our plan probably 2 years ago now. We started out on this sort of road. Our plan is to sort of build up for another 3 to 5 of these type buildings over the next 5 years. It's like a co-working space, but we've got a particular sort of model where we have, and I don't think we're going to match what we have at the minute, but we're on the lookout for those sort of suburban type workplaces, and just bringing it on from there. I think we've exceeded where we thought we were, and we sort of re-looked at our projections there after the second lockdown there. So, and like as we sort of said, as people come in and view the building itself and seeing what a sort of cool place it is to work, they sort of love the idea of it. And it's great as well because it's sort of becoming a hub in Malahide as well, and a good sort of networking centre for all different sort of walks of life, people who are renting offices, be it a local solicitor to a blue chip company there. So like, and it's good to sort of see people interacting like when we're not in lockdown.
Yeah, I'd say that you might see a fair influx when people decide that it's all well and good working from home, and so I think some people got a taste that going in and working in town isn't all it's made up to be. But on the same sense, 5 days at home isn't all it's made up to be either. So I think your model could work quite well.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we're looking for that sort of, where Joe and Mary can drop their kids to school and be within a working environment in 5 minutes, and sort of cut out that commute of an hour into town or an hour home, and be home at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, and have a bit more family time on their hands. And that's the basis. We sort of, like, my wife would have come up with a lot of concepts for these sort of things. She like works in people operations, so she knows what sort of works well. I'm probably, I would say, the more hands-on builder type approach, but she's like, no, you need to sort of structure this way and that way, and this is what appeals to people, and you can definitely see it work. Like, it's good on that end.
Good stuff. To wrap it up, then, Rich, what the rest of the year into next year? Let's call it the next 12 months. What's your take?
And again, I'm hoping a positive approach. We can sort of get these vaccines there and get back on site, get working, fill up our offices here, get a positive approach on everything, get back to normal, get restaurants and pubs and holidays back on track, everyone get back in sort of happy places, I know it'll never be probably the same again, but it probably just gives a different outlook on life. Construction end of it, you'd hope we've like a lot of work on the books, a lot of work to start, and we're just looking to get the start dates tied down. I think, overall, it's probably about 4.5-5 million value worth of work to start. I think so. Like, over the next 12 months, we're very busy. My fear on that end of it is, as you say, the workforce, that can make sure that we sort of keep our workforce in the country here, that more lads sort of become available and that. But I think, like, we're, as a sort of nation, I suppose, we're good at diversifying and keeping it going. So I think we'll move on. But overall, I think we have to be positive and keep going and motor on and get through this and build on to bigger and better things.
I agree. I think once we get that date, I think that date is big to us.
It's key.
Once we get a sight of that date, we can all plan toward that date, and we can push on from there. I think everyone's going to be busy. So, I agree on that one. Richard, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ciaran.